Gabriel had never been so happy to be inside a hospital in his life. The interview had left him exhausted, and he was just relieved to lie down on a bed. Sadly, the peace and quiet he craved would escape him, as Pista hopped onto it as well, sitting down on Gabriel's legs. It stung a little as the girl put pressure on his injured leg, but she was very light, and he could deal with it. Nish did not reprimand her daughter for the rude behaviour. She had learned that Gabriel was rather forgiving towards Pista's antics. "You get stressed around other people, don't you, Gabriel?" said Aeolor, as Warutteri assisted her into the bed. Aeolor did not need the help, but she certainly wanted it. "That's obvious, huh?" replied Gabriel, his eyes shut. "Well, you were stimming pretty much the entire time," stated Aeolor. "Stimming?" asked Nish, confused. "It's repetitive behaviour someone does when they are stressed," explained Gabriel, as Pista played with his feet. Nish opened her mouth to speak, but Aeolor cut her off. "It's not as serious as it sounds. It's not good, but it's pretty common in Death Worlders." That was creepy, thought Nish. It was almost as if the Ponok Clint could read her mind. "Shouldn't Gabriel stop it, even if it's just a little bad?" asked Warutteri. Aeolor rotated her head and replied, "No, stimming is a symptom, not a cause. Trying to make someone stop it when they're stressed can do much more harm than good. It's a coping mechanism." She pointed at Gabriel and added, "See, he's not doing it now, so the source of his stress, the interview, is gone." "Could you all stop talking about me like I'm not here?" said Gabriel, as Pista tried her best to count his toes. The thick material of his shoes made it difficult, however. "Sorry," said Warutteri and Nish. Aeolor just shrugged. "So, they'll leave us alone now?" asked Gabriel. "Most will. Paradise Worlders tend to be satisfied by the first reasonable answer you give them. Pretty much everyone will have seen it. While you'll certainly be treated differently, I doubt many will pester you with questions," explained Aeolor. "You're sure?" inquired Gabriel. "Yes, I know what I'm talking about. I practiced for a year on Ufa. I've dealt with Ponok Clint, who are easy to work with, but they're nothing like habitable worlders," explained Aeolor, irked that Gabriel kept questioning her skills. "Was that an insult or a compliment?" asked Nish, raising her antenna. "Neither, just a neutral statement of fact," said Aeolor. The group was silent except for Pista, as she waited an imaginary carpet bombing on Gabriel's feet. Eventually Nish decided the time had come. "Come on, Pista, we should be going now. Get our tea." "I'm not hungry. I want to play with Gabriel more," she replied, without looking up from the imaginary piano she had made from Gabriel's legs. "We need to go," said Nish even more firmly, making it clear by her tone that this was not up for discussion. Pista pouted and complained, but she slowly removed herself from Gabriel's bed, taking as much time doing so as she dared. "Can we come tomorrow?" Pista asked, getting to her feet. Nish looked away, knowing what she had to tell her daughter. "No, Gabriel will be leaving the hospital, so we won't see him here again." Pista was quiet for a moment before saying, with great enthusiasm, "Then we get to visit his house. I want to go to his house." Again, Nish steeled herself and explained, "No, Gabriel has his own holiday to get to. We can't go bothering him at his home." "So we'll meet him at the zoo?" inquired Pista, her brain struggling to understand what the problem was. "No, Pista, we might see him again in the park, but it will just be an accident. He'll have his holiday and we'll have ours," Nish stated, holding onto all four of her daughter's hands. Once more there was silence as the cogs in Pista's brain set to work. When she finally understood what her mother had meant, she ripped herself from her mother's grasp, jumped back onto the bed, held Gabriel as tightly as she could and screamed, "No!" Nish sighed as Pista created the same buzzing noise she had made after Gabriel had rescued her. Now that he was not so focused on the pain or the fear of attack, Gabriel noticed that it was nothing like the whine of any insect. It was much deeper and far less annoying than one might expect. As she attempted to pull her daughter off Gabriel, he felt a pang of guilt, even though he knew he had done nothing to warrant it. Gabriel sighed alongside Nish and said, with admitted reluctance, "I have a VIP pass for the entire planet, and I can take up to 5 other people along with me." Pista stopped buzzing, looking up at him, and Gabriel added, "If your mother is okay with it, you can come along with me." The girl squealed, and her attention immediately switched to Nish. Advander's face was not mobile, lacking the facial muscles that humans had. Despite being physically incapable of expressions, Pista made her best effort at it. Nish could tell that Gabriel was in 2 halves over the whole thing. On the one hand, he really wanted to get back to his holiday. On the other hand, he really did not want to make Pista cry. She had gotten incredibly attached to Gabriel over the past couple of days, and Ella had mentioned that a clean break would not be good for the young girl's mental state. Nish decided to take advantage of Gabriel's generosity and said, "That sounds lovely." "I will need tomorrow to recover, but the day after we can explore the park together," Gabriel explained. At this point, Ella made a hacking hissing sound and Gabriel looked at her. As she gave Gabriel a knowing gaze, he sighed and said, "Sure, you two can come as well." Rissotti tried her hardest to suppress a squeal as Gabriel asked, "Is there anywhere on Medigarad you want to go?" A few minutes passed as everyone offered their suggestions, though many of them had to be shot down, as they required more than a day for Gabriel to book them. Eventually, Rissotti said that they could all go to the Learning Centre if they needed to keep it simple. Gabriel knew what it was. It had been the first place he had visited. The Medigarad Learning Centre was a vast complex, a museum and play park all rolled into one. It was filled with information about the history of the planet, large interactive displays and games, game areas for small children, a few small animal displays containing the more delicate specimens from across the galaxy. To be perfectly honest, he liked the idea of going back, and this was as good an excuse as any. Nish also liked the idea. She had tried to take Pista before, hoping to make the trip educational as well as fun. Unfortunately, Pista had thrown a tantrum the moment they had approached the building. Not even the play areas, slides and even rides located inside were enough to tempt her in. Though judging by the bouncing Pista was currently engaged in, that was not the case anymore. Gabriel grabbed his PDA and searched for tours at the Learning Centre. While it initially seemed fully booked, Gabriel tapped in his credentials and a special listing appeared. The day was pretty much open. After a brief discussion, they all agreed to meet up at 40, outside the centre. As Nish and Pista left the ward, Pista turned around and gave Gabriel one last hug. "Okay, I like you too. Now you best get going or your mum's going to be cross." Pista skipped out of the room, her wings fluttering all the while. Once both she and Nish were out of earshot, Errol said, "You really hate kids, don't you?" "Oh, can't stand them. As soon as I see them, I tell them to get lost," replied Gabriel with a smirk. The nurse checked the clock. It was 8500, and the two patients in death ward were finally falling asleep. Gabriel and Errol were delightful people, but their ability to push their bodies beyond all reason made taking care of them difficult. It was rewarding work, though he did not know how his death-warded colleagues could be so blasé. Oh well, they were asleep now, and the best part of his day was about to begin. Just about all life slept. Even plants had periods of lower activity. Death warders, however, was something else. Their sleep was so deep that the first time he had seen it in person, he had very nearly overridden the doctor and hit the panic button. The monitors in front of him kept track of their vitals. The heart rate slowed, breathing became shallow, the core temperature dropped, and most shockingly, the body paralysed itself. That was not what he was waiting for, though. A second monitor was monitoring their brains. It was all standard. Everyone admitted to hospitals was carefully watched in case something went wrong. Slowly but surely, their mental activity slowed. To the untrained eye, it looked like they were undergoing brain death, but the drop in activity stabilised and held steady for almost an hour. Then it happened. The brain exploded into activity. The display went mad, and the monitors detected rapid muscle concentrations in the eye. In just about every other species, this would indicate a stroke, but for these two, they were just dreaming. Everyone had dreams. He had had dreams, but they were nothing like these impossibly vivid recreations of unbelievable scenarios. Some death warders had told him that they could even feel temperatures, pressure, and even a type of pain in their dreams. It all seemed paradoxical to him. Evolving on such deadly worlds would require periods of such vulnerability, and the death warders agreed. What a fascinating galaxy this was.